You are likely here today to gaze upon, and probably laugh at, the first movie I ever made. For reference, it's 2017. Transformers 5 comes out. I don't see it, but from clips on YouTube, I get the gist of what happens in it. And now, as a boy with 13 years life experience but 80 years worth of ambition, I decide I want to make a Transformers movie. Or more specifically, I want to make a Bumblebee and Hot Rod prequel film to the 2007 Transformers film. Now, despite being a lifelong Transformers fan at this point, this project was honestly a stepping stone for a bigger passion project I had in mind that I'll probably cover relatively soon. But I decided to make a film, and to make one that I actually liked, I had to dip my toes in the water with a temp film first, and Bumblebee and Hot Rod was the temp film. Being a very creative child, I also enjoyed making these paper/card figures a lot. I made a lot of Civil War characters, Justice League characters, Spider-Man, Transformers, Power Rangers, all the bunch. And a part of me always wanted to see these figures that I made animated in a sense, whether it was stop motion or it was puppeteered through like an After Effects or something. So that's what motivated me to make this film live action, as in shot with puppets that I would make for the film. And then the idea was anything we couldn't film, I would sort of digitally alter. I also had a huge fascination with CGI at this age, so I really wanted to make a makeshift CGI attempt, when they digitally replace characters or extend sets. I make this movie with my younger brother. We build sets, I build sets. We film the scenes, I film the scenes. Then we edit it, I edit it. And I also digitally enhance it, as I would say back then. The movie ends up being around 30 minutes long. It's a prequel film to the 2007 film, where Bumblebee and Hot Rod, after the events of the Last Night flashbacks when they're fighting in World War II, are sort of in a meandering point until Barricade comes along and tries to free Megatron as he's being transported from the Arctic, where he's found by Samuel Witwy's grandfather, to what the hell are they called again? John Turturro's boys. Something 7, Sector 7. Megatron's being transported to Sector 7. Barricade wants to free him, but Bumblebee and Hot Rod have to stop him, and that's the plot of the film basically. In this video, I only show images, 2 trailers I made, and 3 scenes from the film, and you will find out why near the end, but this is sort of a sneak peek of what my first attempt at making a film actually looked like. Now after this, I went on to make a ton of different stuff. I'm even in the process of making a film right now that I hope to finish relatively soon. But I think sometimes it's important to look back on where you started and what your roots were. You at your sort of rawest stage, before you've learned anything, before you've experienced anything. It's just pure ambition. So obviously we went over the backstory of, my past and my history of making figures, because that was what led into my decision to make this a practically made film with puppets and with wire work, and you can see a lot of the wire work in the film. But then there's this other part of me, and at this time, when I was 13 in 2017, I was really fascinated with CGI. But not just CGI, how CGI is incorporated into films, how actors or elements are taken and either replaced with CGI or sort of merged with CGI. It's this blending of 2 worlds that really fascinated me when I was younger, and it was something I really wanted to explore, which is why, as you can probably tell, this movie is sort of a mix of practical stuff and digitally painted and illustrated stuff. Now, some guys get it better than others, but this is the main crux of how the film was made. Bumblebee, in the case of Bumblebee, from the waist up, he's entirely practical. Bottom half, entirely CGI. I mean, not entirely CGI, entirely illustrated. Bumblebee in this movie never had any damn legs. right? They were completely illustrated. He did get a car form that was fully practical from top to bottom, but when he was in robot form, yeah, his legs never existed. He just didn't get any. And he should be lucky because Hot Rod got it even worse. Not only does he not have any legs, not only does he not have any car form, not only does he not have any hands, but the entire right part of his body is just not present. He doesn't have a chest piece and he doesn't have an arm on the right side of his body. So with Hot Rod, I gave Hot Rod even less, and in real time it's actually starting to confuse me because on this poster he does have a right chest plate. So now I'm thinking that it must have like fell off at some point. So yeah, sorry Hot Rod fans. I kind of did your boy dirty, but you know. And in the case of Barricade, entirely digital apart from a couple of shots where I made a practical version of his head. But other than that, he was never really real. He was always illustrated. So this movie is quite interesting as it sort of acts as a blending of two completely different mediums, but it's not like seamlessly done. It's like it's so apparent that these are being smashed together in a sense. But I think that makes this movie very interesting to explore and to look back on. And to this day, I still quite like a lot of what I did with this movie because it really shows, even at this time, my creativeness and my love for storytelling and visual storytelling and illustration, animation, you know, the whole bunch. This is really the groundworks. I'll show you the other posters I made. Yeah, obviously it's the same sort of premise, you know. Bumblebee, no legs. I didn't even bother to draw them in on this poster, goddamn. And then Hot Rod, boy doesn't have a right side of his body, bro. It's looking a bit rough. Does he have hands? I don't even know if I drew them in. And yeah, in here, obviously, car form's not real. Looks pretty nice. I did kind of a nice job. But yeah, not real. I like this poster quite a bit, actually, to this day. The lighting's quite nice. This was actually inspired by a Thor Ragnarok poster that came out, I think, a bit before. That's sort of what was inspired by. This whole stuff was in the third act, and you'll see a bit more of that later on. This poster, I think, was my favorite at the time. If that matters to you, it probably doesn't, but it was my favorite at the time. And this is a clear sort of look of the fact that Bumblebee's legs are not real. Most of Hot Rod isn't real. And then a lot of the backgrounds obviously aren't real. And this is a reference to a chase that happens later in the film. And finally, on the images side I have to show you, this is all these images are sort of a display of the difference between the fully practical characters and the fully illustrated characters. That shows obviously you have Bumblebee fully practical and then fully illustrated. Then you have Hot Rod fully practical, fully illustrated, well, mostly practical. There was one close up where he speaks and the mouth is illustrated, but yeah, same premise applies. And Bumblebee in the final act of this film goes through 3 different phases. One where he's entirely practical, one where he's partially practical and illustrated, and then one where he's entirely illustrated. This is one shot where the mediums blend, and it's only because I didn't make the parts that he upgrades to before I shot it. So I kind of shot it and then illustrated them on top, and I made them after the fact. So there are slight differences in how they look, and this shot is quite rough. I don't know what happened, but epileptic warning if like things spawning in and out of existence like trigger you in some way. Okay, now that we've gone through the visual rundown of how this was made, I'm gonna sort of fast forward through the 2 trailers that I made for it. This is the first one. I can't play it because it has copyrighted music in it, but I'm just gonna take the reader and go throughout the trailer. So obviously we mentioned 2017 before. This is when The Last Night came out, so we're just going back in time because this is a prequel film to the 2007 film. It's basically just implying that, you know, before all that other bullshit happened, this movie happen, basically. And you get some visual nods to that time. Like this from the first Transformers film. The Last Night, I made this for my brother actually when the movie came out. Don't know what he did with it. And yeah, The Last Night as well. There were these two. And this is where the Last Night isms come into play for this film, because Bumblebee and Hot Rod obviously fought together in World War II. They killed Germans, very nice, very Transformers coded. And yeah, this whole plot point is used to set up a part of the film that leads into the third act. That's my 13-year-old brain storytelling at play. This is another shot. This soldier is painting Bumblebee, sort of. I guess it sets up how those illustrations of him in the battlefields even existed. And then you have Hot Rod right there. And in this shot, he's doing something in particular. He's not just kneeling down and giving a thumbs up to Bumblebee for no reason. He's doing something specific in this shot that's apparent later in the film. This is what is set up for the third act of the film. A couple of shots here. This is the first time, well, not the first time, but this is fully digital, 100% digital, Bumblebee, Hot Rod, background and everything. And actually, this shot's actually pretty nice. The lighting's pretty cool. This was probably one of my favorite shots from the film, but in this early version, Bumblebee doesn't have any of the lighting on him. Barricade. This is basically meant to set up, this is the villain. He transforms off screen here, and then blam, dude knocked down a fence or a gate or whatever the hell this was supposed to be. That's how you know you're supposed to take this guy seriously. These were a pain in the ass to draw, actually, looking back. Now, this was not fun to draw. I did it with my finger too. That was a bit traumatic. This is one of the few shots where Barricade's head is like physically made, and even that shot you could barely see it. Here's the fully practical Bumblebee and Hot Rod. Now, I kind of lied before. Oh, I didn't lie, I kind of forgot. Hot Rod did have legs. He did have legs, because they're real right here. But for some reason, this is the only shot in the film where they appear, and you can barely see them anyway. I don't know why this is the case. I actually don't remember. I'm literally just revisiting all of this now, so I didn't pull a sneaky one on you. That wasn't like a 4D chess play. I legitimately didn't remember that he had legs for one scene for some reason. They're on a ship here. The bars sort of block out Bumblebee's head. That's elite blocking on my end. Here's Barricade. Bumblebee. Here's some shots. This is the first chase scene that we filmed. Yeah, now it's just a bunch of action beats as the trailer progresses. Same shot twice, very professional. This meant to be a scene of Cybertron, the Dinobots. And this meant to be a tease like, oh, Bumblebee's gonna get a new form, and then it's the title drop. Bumblebee and Hot Rod. Let's look at the date. It's November, right? November 21st. I set this for November 21st. Absolutely nobody put it on their calendars, but I still put a date on the trailer. That's craftsmanship. Okay, and so now we're going to look into the second trailer I made for this film. I named it the IMAX trailer. I was obsessed with IMAX as well. I was obsessed with a lot of things at this age. Yeah. This is a shot near the beginning of the movie. One thing about this film too that I made, or at least came up with, was that like Barricade can do in Transformers 1, the very first one, Bumblebee and Hot Rod can create these human avatars. So in this scene, I think Hot Rod's avatar is in a store and they're buying a radio. I think you'll see a bit more of this scene. Yeah, this is them walking out of the store. They're apparently 15 feet tall. And then, yeah, they walk to Hot Rod. This is Hot Rod in his fully illustrated form. He never had a physical car form, and you can see a bit of the well, you can't see a lot of it, but he did have like just a box with red markers underneath. Shot of Earth. This place blowing up. That has some relevance. Again, another shot of Hot Rod. I think this one's pretty nice. Nice reflections and stuff. The background's pretty. It works well. It does what it has to do. You know. Now this is another element where the practical and digital merge. A still photo of this background was taken. This is a junkyard, by the way. It's meant to be a junkyard, and it goes from practical Bumblebee, the car form, and then he's sort of edited out with the still of the junkyard, and then that's when he becomes digital, when he needs to transform. He only transforms like this in this scene, I think. But yeah, there's already 2 frames of him transforming, and then I think in the next shot in the actual film, he's fully transformed. Again, Hot Rod just doesn't have an arm. It's not even bothered about it. This is Barricade's transformation, and you can see how selective I was with the care for the transformations, because he's just blah. You know, you blink and then you miss it. You know, you think like it jump cut. Nope, just blah. 1 frame and then he's a robot. These are some shots. Him messing with the radio. Imagine Dragons was using this trailer, by the way. 2017 trailer, man. But yeah, again, you see him dropping. You see illustrations of him transforming, and then it just goes straight to the practical. Straight to the practical car. And then entirely digital, both of them. This trailer kind of just builds on. Yeah, see, there's the practical leg. The prophesized practical leg. Oh my god, it did have a practical leg. I think he only had one. The way he's sitting, his knee is up, but you don't see the other side. So I think he only had one. And he had another chest piece. So this did probably just fall off at some point. I have no idea what happened to the leg go. Maybe the same happened, because you can see here it's held together with pipe cleaner. So maybe it just wore out. Now that I think about it. That's actually crazy, bro. I actually forgot about that. But yeah, this is the shot where the sort of upgrades had to be digitally added, and good lord, you can see it's just straight up like, yeah. And that's meant to be the big final shot of the trailer that you go, oh, I want to see this now. And then this shot right here. They both great upgrades in the film. Again, more scenes. I'm going to actually stop this trailer right here, and I'm going to start looking into some of the actual scenes from the film. This was the first scene that we filmed. There's a shot in here that's literally the first shot that we ever filmed for the movie. It starts with that shot of Bumblebee sort of landing, transforming into a car, and then speeding off. This shot is the very first shot that we ever filmed. It was the first set we made. I remember painting it. I remember sticking these road markings on. I remember the pavements and everything. These parts are obviously digital. They're meant to sort of extend the set. Hot Rod here, not real at all. If you couldn't tell, different angle as well. Is at the wrong angle for the road. But yeah, in this chase scene, Hot Rod's running away, Barricade's chasing Hot Rod, and Bumblebee's behind Barricade. So there's Barricade Digital as well. This is Bumblebee's whole... I'm going to stop it right there. Something, I don't remember what, but I had to digitally replace parts of Bumblebee, like, speeding. I don't remember why. Something was here and I had to get rid of it, but I don't remember what. So now it has this weird sort of... He has this weird sort of cut-up effect about him. Another way the movie was made, there would be a lot of... It was made with wires, and it was made with these sticks with, like, we needed to, like, move a character or anything. That's how this sort of drift is done. And then this is just, oh my god, you see it. You actually see it. You can see the red box that was used for... You see the red box that was used as, like, reference for, okay, these are where the cars are gonna go. You know? It was Bumblebee and Hot Rod. This is Bumblebee and... No, this is Hot Rod and Barricade. They're fully digital here. The whole background is digital. Again, a lot of work. A lot of work, man. Bumblebee's supposed to drive up a ramp and then fly up into the air and try to get some leverage because he's behind a bit. Hot Rod uses momentum, flips Barricade off of him, and then there's one frame of him mid sort of transformation, and then he's just in car form and he drives off. And then as Barricade falls over, Bumblebee just catches him and then pushes him through to the other side. They tussle in this scene for a little bit, but then they have to... Again, this is before... this scene is cut off, but this is before Transformers are a thing. So in this scene, the joke's meant to be that they're tussling for a bit, but then they see a human and they both have to sort of hide in car form. It's meant to be the sort of comedic thing, but the human's in the wrong place. Like, this guy would have saw them already, and he's also way too big relative to them. So yeah, that kind of falls flat. We get to the scene where they're surrounded on a bridge. Barricade's right there. Bumblebee's avatar steps out and pretends to be what looks to be a suicide bomber. Oh my goodness, a bit extreme. Basically, after the chase scene, they get into a submarine that's sent by Ironhide. So Ironhide kind of makes like a non-official cameo in this film because he sends a submarine to help them get to the dock where their old sort of weapons are stored. This is them jumping out from the ship. Even when he's fully digital, he doesn't have his arm. I don't understand what happened here. Hot Rod is fully digital in this shot, and he doesn't have an arm. I am baffled. I'm actually baffled. And that's their ship. And yeah, you see in this shot, there's Bumblebee, there's Hot Rod. Hot Rod completely replaced digitally. The background's fully digital. They're talking. I didn't bother making any mouth movements though, but they eventually find their weapons. These clips are cut down. These aren't the full scenes. They're cut down because, well, I just wanted to cut them down and save them to my personal, drive. These aren't the full scenes, so there's a lot that's sort of cut out. After that shot, they walk around the dock for a bit, and then they find their weapons, and then it leads to this scene where Bumblebee puts them on, and then Hot Rod puts on this fin that he has. For Bumblebee, it's a chest piece. For Hot Rod, it's a fin. And this sort of... yeah, this changes him visually too. You can see the wire work here. It's just Bumblebee looking at his upgrades. But you can see the wire work and the practical backgrounds. His Hot Rod is fully digital. This is a shot of them running. This is meant to be a comedic shot. They both put on their shades. They get shades. They jump, and then the shades break instantly. It's meant to be like this comedic bit. Bumblebee's thing's missing. As I'm looking back, I'm noticing mistakes. Bumblebee is straight up missing his wings on his chest piece. They're just straight up not there. And then this clip cuts to Hot Rod, upgraded Hot Rod, fighting off this car that's sent by Barricade. And then Bumblebee is the one who fights Barricade. So you can see here, Bumblebee is pulling Barricade down. Barricade sort of gets up. His digital head, like real head. The real head. Barricade, real head. Barricade with the real head. And then there's this shot. This shot from a previous trailer with all the added sort of parts onto Bumblebee. Obviously in the teaser trailer, Bumblebee just looks like Bumblebee, but now they've added, I added all the extra digital parts after the fact. You can see the sort of pixels from just how low res these illustrations were. This is meant to be, it's kind of hard to explain. Basically, Bumblebee and Barricade go into the ship as like a final showdown, and then Hot Rod's left outside. In these shipping containers is parts of Megatron, because they find Megatron, and the idea was they find Megatron in the Arctic in Transformers 1, and then in the process of getting him to nest to that base where he's held and put in ice, he's like taken apart and put into crates. And then the whole sort of mission of Barricade in this film is to get to the crates and free Megatron. But then Bumblebee and Hot Rod obviously come to stop him. And then in this shot, Bumblebee has these stingers. He blows a hole in the hole in the ship. Quite inconsiderate. This guy's just looking on baffled. One of the few humans in this film. Barricade's here. Obviously, there's a barricade and that's the dock behind him. Wait. You can see Bumblebee blows himself back. Megatron right there. And what Hot Rod does off screen that's cut out of this clip is that he finds Megatron's hand, which triggers his sort of laser vision. That sort of triggered in the first Transformers film when Sam Witwicky's great grandfather finds him. And that's repurposed here. And then what that does is it blows Barricade straight out the ship. And then Barricade's done for. And then that is sort of the final act of the film right there for the most part. So now the last part of this movie we're going to look at is how it ends, because by 2007 Bumblebee and Hot Rod have to be separated. He isn't mentioned in any of the Transformers films before The Last Night, so I had to make it sort of apparent that they end up going their separate ways. It's them on a ferry they're editing on, but the ferry is real. It's made out of cardboard. They're sort of having this sort of heart-to-heart, like movies do near the end of the film. I think Bumblebee's arc is that he doesn't need the radio. And you can see him here just looking at it. He uses it. This is the start of his radio gimmick. But then Howard convinces him that he doesn't need it. And then they sort of agree that to go their separate ways. Hot Rod stays here while Bumblebee goes on the ship, probably back to where those original movies based, Chicago. And then this is them saying goodbye, sort of. Yeah, you can see the original. This is them saying goodbye. Now, we look at this. The more I rewatch, the more I'm like remembering. Hot Rod wasn't just a black box with red markers on it. He had a car mode where only the front was made. So for Hot Rod, he had a car prop where only the front was made, but for the most of the movie, it's never shown out of this specific shot. This specific shot is the only shot where it's not fully painted over. I only add like the top and the windscreen after the fact, but I think this is the only shot that this actually appears in, which is pretty interesting. And they're saying goodbye, the doors come up, but Bumblebee transforms one more time to wave him goodbye. And then this is him in the cargo, or the car holds, and he's being shipped off. And then this Bumblebee's last scene, and just for the filmmaking here, this is a full painted background with a circular cutout where I put my lamp that's meant to act as the sun, and that creates the lighting for this shot, for the wings and the shoulder. And this is Bumblebee's last shot in the film, and it's him sort of concluding his arc, ditching the radio and sort of going to where he starts off in the first Transformers film. He puts on the shades as reference to what we saw previously. He drops the radio. He drops it. Now you can see here, this was what was used to sort of drop it. I sort of just leant it down, and then with the wires I sort of pulled Bumblebee off screen. That's again, he's in the field, but it's sort of digitally painted to be a field. He drives off, and how Hot Rod's last scene in this film, which concludes ultimately the entire film, is a setup for Transformers 5, because we don't see Hot Rod until Transformers 5, and then we get the reveal of who this character is, and it's Le Cogman from The Last Night. And then that's the purpose of this whole ending, to set up the trajectory these characters go on. For Bumblebee's case, it's the 2007 film. Hot Rod's case, it's The Last Night. So that's how this whole sort of ending is constructed. Outside of that basic sort of going through everything that happens in the film's about 30 minutes, but the only other footage left to cover is just these couple of shots from the film of, if you hit Hot Rod's hiding in like some greenery under some trees. Bumblebee's right behind him in this shot. And we covered this shot before. Here it's fully sort of completed. The lighting's completed to fit within the scene. This is most of what we covered already. It's just more clips from the final battle. This is just Bumblebee gearing up to face Barricade head on. Again, all those clips I showed you before were highly edited, so stuff like this was just cut out. You can see here, mostly practical apart from the legs. Bumblebee has these stingers. The arm bit here is digitally added. The set is extended with all these crates and stuff. Now that we've got all the scenes of the film out of the way, we need to get onto the soundtrack, because I did make a soundtrack for this film, and I did sort of have it produced separately outside of the film. So this was also sort of my my roots in creating the music for my own films, because I do create the music for my films, and I have done so ever since this, and this was sort of the stepping stone to that. So I'll play some music for you right here. This is some of what I made when I was 13 back in 2017 with nothing but a keyboard from Amazon and a microphone on, well, not a microphone, I just used an app on my phone to record it. So now, after all said and done, you're probably wondering why I didn't just show clips from the entire film and just clips from select scenes. And that's because I don't have the entire, and that's because I don't have the entire film. I literally don't have it anymore. It's actually like lost media. The only version of the film that existed, because this was 2017. I've been through so many devices since then, and the only version of the film I know that exists is on my brother's old phone, and that thing is ancient. I don't even know if it works anymore. As far as I know, the only evidence that this film ever existed is what I just showed today. Literally, like those couple of scenes, the trailers, the music, the images, that's all that's left of this film as far as I'm concerned. Because that phone of his that holds the one version of his film, I don't even know if he still has it, first of all. And second of all, even if he finds it, it might not even turn on. So, yeah, man, there are scenes of this film that are just like gone. Like forever. So any of you like lost media pundits that are out there, if you're, interested in that, then yeah, this movie's pretty much lost media outside of the few scenes that I decided to save to my device. So, all in all, that was Bumblebee and Hot Rod. This was like, at the time, this was such an ambitious sort of project for me, because it really allowed me to express myself creatively. I did work with my brother on it, but I did 90% of the work, in all honesty. And even he'd admit that, because I was way more passionate about actually making it than he was. I made all the figures, I did all the 2D animation, I made the sets, I filmed the scenes, I pretty much decided how the movie was going to go. Well, that was Bumblebee and Hot Rod. Well, at least like 3 minutes of it. The rest is a relic of time, and you'll just have to take my word that this was 30 minutes long at one point. Now, I put a lot of work into this film, but you can tell at certain points in the film that I was just kind of over it. I was ready to be done. And that's because I was doing everything myself. Damn it, I wanted to move on. But I was glad that I actually pulled through and finished it. You never really know if you're the type of person to see things through to the end or to kind of dump them when you're bored, so I'm glad that I turned out the former. Me and my brother actually ended up watching the final version of the film for the first time on a makeshift projector I made out of a shoebox. He didn't particularly enjoy it, but I was the one who made it, so I was going to make sure that my hard work paid off, god damn it. Immediately after this was done, I started writing the first script for the movie that I was actually passionate about making. About the show that I was really passionate about, being Ben 10. Years after this, the movie ended up being 2 hours long and is actually on the channel, along with a couple of behind the scenes sort of videos, but I want to do another one that's more akin to this, where I sort of look back and both reminisce and sort of look at the film and how it was made through new eyes. To this day, I still think that movie was the most ambitious thing I've ever really done. And since then, I've done a bunch of animations for the channel, and I've done short films for my studies in university. There'll either be annotations or end cards where you can check those out, and feel free to watch and comment on them if you so please. I also, like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm working on another short film that I hope to have out relatively soon. Would be nice to have it done before the end of the year, but who knows. And yeah, man, for those of you who are invested in sort of the Ben 10 stuff that I made, I guess I'll address more of that when I look back on the first B10 film that I made. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think of the film, because since we made it, not a single soul has commented on any aspect of it, because nobody else has ever seen it before. So I am genuinely curious what people probably have to say about this.